Gary. That was beautiful. Good evening. I am just so honored to be here tonight and so proud to be associated with this organization, Equal Justice Works, and I am just truly humbled to be recognized with this award, especially when I consider the list of past recipients, some of whom are here with us tonight. And honestly, I have to say, I feel hardly worthy of being in such company, and I can only hope that my own contributions will measure up in some small way. I want to thank Equal Justice Works and its board for considering me. Special thanks to the incredible Verna Williams, also to her predecessor, David Stern, that force of nature who first introduced me to this amazing community. Gary, thank you so much again for that very generous introduction. I want to thank my company, U.S. Bank, and the law division that I have the privilege to lead. I view this recognition not as personal for me, but as collective and reflecting your dedication to causes larger than yourselves. And finally, thanks to my family, including my wife, Julie, who's here tonight for supporting me in my work. You make it all possible, and I'm so grateful for that. So to celebrate our commitment to equal justice, it seems entirely appropriate that we are gathered here in Washington, D.C., a city that I've admired since childhood for symbolizing the very best of America. And I remember quite clearly my very first visit on a family vacation when I was in grade school, running around excitedly, taking in as many monuments, big museums, and historic sites as my parents could endure in the summer heat at that time. And these special places still inspire me today. In fact, I like to revisit them when I'm here. And sometimes when I go for a morning run on the National Mall, which I did today, as a matter of fact, I can take in the Lincoln Memorial, for example, and if I'm out early enough, I have it all to myself, and I can study Lincoln's solemn face, worn by his struggle to preserve a union dedicated to the proposition of equality. As I descend the steps, I can pause in the exact spot where Dr. King stood 60 years ago to deliver his I Have a Dream speech. Then I can make my way over to the MLK Memorial and see his towering figure emerging from that great stone of hope. I can contemplate his profound thoughts on the inscription wall, such as, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Further on, I can visit FDR, read his warning that we must scrupulously guard the civil rights of all of our citizens. Any oppression, any injustice, any hatred is a wedge designed to attack our civilization. And sometimes my run takes me past the Capitol all the way to the Supreme Court, where I can look up the front steps and see the phrase "equal justice under law" etched in big letters above the entrance. I've never lost my boyish enthusiasm for this city, though time has taught me the hard lesson of just how difficult it is to live up to what it represents. And I think this is particularly true of equal justice under law, which was once described by Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell as perhaps the most inspiring ideal of our society. Most inspiring, yes, but I think also most elusive. For example, just last year, the US ranked only 115th out of 140 countries by the World Justice Project in the category of access and affordability of civil justice, while the Legal Services Corporation reported that low-income Americans have inadequate legal assistance in 92% of their substantial civil legal problems. Similarly, the US ranked just 36th in criminal due process, while another study classified a full 40% of all US counties as legal deserts due to understaffed and overworked public defender offices. All of this despite 60 years having passed since the Gideon decision, in which the court declared it an obvious truth that a criminal defendant without representation could not be assured a fair trial. For me, these statistics are hard to bear. I'll soon be turning 60 also, and I can't help but feeling that I've not done enough for the cause of equal justice, nor do I feel that the broader legal profession has done enough. How could we have, with statistics like these, evidencing a largely broken system for supporting civil and criminal legal needs of our most vulnerable citizens? As lawyers, I think we would do well to remind ourselves that the law is indeed a profession. It's not a trade, it's not a business, it's a profession. The great Justice Louis Brandeis once defined a profession as an occupation in which financial return is not the accepted measure of success and is something pursued largely for the benefit of others and not merely for oneself. As such, the legal profession is a higher calling, and it comes with great responsibility for the system and also for the people it should be serving. Our profession is not something that allows us to take, but rather it's something that requires us to give. Simply put, we need to be better stewards of equal justice than we have been, much better. To fully address this stark justice gap is going to require a serious national effort, including policy changes, different spending priorities, and new and innovative methods for addressing basic legal needs. Fundamentally, it will require a shift in public attitude away from indifference to the needs of the vulnerable and towards compassion, and the realization that as citizens, we are responsible for one another. Many such reforms are beyond the exclusive domain of the legal profession, and they're certainly beyond my own ability to prescribe. But I do believe that we lawyers should be leading the way. Some members of our profession set a brilliant example, including those serving on the front lines in public defense, civil legal aid, and public interest law. Some could be doing more, including many of us enjoying the privileged comfort of corporate and law firm practice, where the law can feel more like a business than a profession. But all of us have a special power, and that's the power of our conscience to guide us to what is right, just, and equitable. Just as the general counsel of a company is often described as the conscience of the corporation, we legal professionals are the collective conscience of the broader system, and we must give it voice to call out this huge justice gap. As inspiration, we might look to Lincoln, the corporate railroad lawyer turned politician who is said to have used the capacity of his own deep and living conscience to shape events and change the course of history. I think it's long past time that we do this and address the obvious truth that we're not actually delivering on the promise of equal justice. We cannot rely on the myth of time, described by Dr. King as that tragic misconception that its mere passage will cause a problem to work itself out. Time alone will not make equal justice a reality, nor will etching the words in stone on monuments and buildings. That hard work is left to all of us, and I will admit to feeling daunted by the enormity of that task and often wondering whether any small action I might take can really make a difference. But then I remind myself of something the civil rights activist Rosa Parks once said, that to bring about change, you must not be afraid to take that first step. And that's what we've tried to do at U.S. Bank, take steps with our banking initiatives targeting access to capital and the racial wealth gap, and steps with our legal department programs dedicated to pro bono, diversity inclusion, equity and racial justice, and lawyer well-being. We know these steps may be only small ones, but we take them with the knowledge that change happens only one step at a time, and that small things can add up to big things. Despite the dire state of today's justice gap, I do actually have hope and optimism for the future. While historically the law has been very slow to change, the pace of change is actually increasing, driven by forces like technology, which is causing both disruption and innovation. Also, new generations are entering the profession. They're bringing energy, creativity, and a forceful demand that the system should actually live up to its ideals. They are unafraid to take that first step to bring about change, and they're demonstrating the power of their conscience. They know that while our painful history of past injustice cannot be unlived, as the great poet Maya Angelou said, if faced with courage, it need not be lived again. In a speech given 60 years ago, Attorney General Robert Kennedy offered that one of the reasons the legal system was not delivering equal justice was that the most talented lawyers were choosing not to enter public interest law. Fortunately, today we have organizations like Equal Justice Works, and our best and brightest young lawyers are choosing careers in public interest law. You Equal Justice Works fellows are the living embodiment of a better idea, as has been said of Lincoln himself. Your idealism, your commitment, and your work give me faith in the future. The same kind of deep faith in the future that Dr. King held because of his conviction that the universe is on the side of justice. So for that deep faith, as well as for this very nice recognition, I'm very grateful to Equal Justice Works, to the fellows, and to all of you here tonight. Thank you.